Hello and welcome back to the final lab of OPTI 471B. This lab 11, will be going over visual characteristics of the eye and then perception as well. This lab is going to be a little bit different than previous ones because I'm just going to go over a bunch of fun tests that kind of show different characteristics about our vision. First is the dominant eye test. It turns out, similar to how we have a left and right hand, we tend to use one eye more than we do the other. You can test and find yours by focusing at something in the distance through an aperture like your hands, and then individually closing one eye and then the other. The eye where the image moves is not your dominant eye, and the eye where the image doesn't move, that is your dominant eye. Next is a blind spot that many people have already heard of, caused by the junction of the optical nerve in the retina. In this simple test, cover your left eye and then focus on the cross as you move your head in and out. Eventually, the black dot will go away and that's your blind spot. Next is a field of view test. I'm not going to go over the details of this just to conserve time, but it's simply a test to understand the angular extent of what you can see. Next is the famous Snellen chart. This is a specially designed chart to test the angular resolution that someone has. The standard human can generally resolve about 1 arc minute, which correlates to 20/20 vision. This is a slightly confusing system to use at first, but to understand it, think about this example. A person with standard 20/20 vision could resolve the same line on the chart from 30 feet away as someone with 20/30 vision observing the chart from 20 feet away. The next visual acuity test is a functional acuity contrast test. This is similar to the Snellen test in that you look at a chart from a certain distance away, but instead of testing angular resolution, this tests how well you can resolve a contrast with different spatial frequencies. Again, to conserve time, I'm not going to go into the details of this, but there are plenty of fun places online where you can do these tests. Another visual test is flicker fusion frequency. This tests your eye's ability to determine whether something is flashing or not. The faster it flashes, the harder it gets to determine, and then eventually you can't tell the difference at all. The point at which you can't tell the difference between it flashing and being constant light, that's a flicker fusion frequency of your eye. Turns out there's also a small chromatic dependence on this. Shown above are my personal test results, and you can see that the flicker fusion frequency for blue and green is a little bit higher than for red. Another fun thing to note is that we're actually observing this all the time. Industrial fluorescent lamps actually fluctuate at about 60 Hertz, which is above our flicker fusion threshold, so we just can't observe it. Next, you can also test the extent of your color vision by using something like a monochromator that separates wavelengths. Last in the realm of visual perception are things like stereograms and optical illusions. Stereograms are 3D images embedded in a geometric pattern that can be seen by focusing your eyes beyond the pattern. Finally, optical illusions are simply patterns that trick your brain into seeing something that's not actually there, like this wheel that's not actually rotating. And that concludes the last video in this series. Thanks so much for watching up to this point as always, and don't forget to check back in for future content.